Probably should have had that on video. Well, I'm glad you were able to piece it together anyway, Mike, that that there was a multinational issue.
Yeah, that's became clear after a while.
Yeah. But believe me, I did spend enough money to exhaust my avenues.
I'm sure you did.
Okay, questions. Now you raised before that, sometimes coaches in this era don't have the control of their strength and conditioning programs, to use that terrible word, which is really ironic, because I come from a bit of history, and in the early days the word didn't even exist and no one did it. The coaches might have done a little bit of dry land and they might have floated in and out of the idea, but they controlled it and they did it. Like the coach actually did it, or it didn't happen. And somehow it got to the point now where the coaches are being told in a school program, be it a high school or a college, and they're accepting the fact that an independent person who they didn't appoint, who of any diverse qualifications and skill and experience, is telling them how they're going to physically train their athletes. Like, it's a really unique situation. And in the early days, you can imagine, in college, in the early days, let's say you're the head football coach, and you might have said, I need to do some strength work with my athletes. You did it, and then you said, this is a bit of my depth. I'm going to find Billy Joe down the road who's got a gym, and he's going to come in and do a bit for me. And that's how it all began in the football program. And I'm sure the National Strength and Conditioning Association was very happy that they were able to sell themselves to the NCAA and high schools. And now it's got to the point where they must be really happy because there's guaranteed employment for their people, and their people have autonomy. They're like, really? How does that work? Their heads aren't on the line. Yours is, as a head coach. How does that work?
Right. Well, you can't work with kids in the weight room unless you're NSC qualified now in the NC2A. It's a violation of the rules.
Yeah, and I've got to be happy for that association to achieve that sort of monopoly in the marketplace. But I just can't believe that coaches are in a position where they're abdicating their outcome. They've lost control. And I'm not wanting to disillusion any coach, but I'm seeing that happening in other countries now, and I'm like, really? Because historically, as I said, coaches have been able to pick their staff. Like if you're in a pro team or a team outside an institution, you'd be saying, I want Billy Joe, and they usually pick Billy Joe because Billy Joe is a puppet, and they can tell Billy Joe what to do. So I don't have a solution for you, but do your best. Because if it comes down to convincing it, if someone believes something is right, then they're right. So there's no real support for this is definitely true and this isn't. I don't work at all on the convincing phase. I don't work hard on the marketing. I just do my thing, and if people want to learn about it, I teach them. So it's a little bit different, and I probably don't. I've stepped out of, intentionally stepped out of environments where you're having to bang your head. See, even if I am engaged in a professional team, as a physical preparation coach or the athletic, whatever you want to call it, generally speaking, I'm probably not going to employ the doctor, the physiotherapist, the sports psychologist, the podiatrist, the nutritionist. It just goes on. And so it's just a continual professional interaction, to put it politely. So the frustrations exist at all levels in that regard.
Well, we even have the difference between strength and conditioning and our athletic training people.
Absolutely.
Training people,
absolutely.
And they don't work together.
No,
even though they want the strength and conditioning, they are astute enough to say there are things that we can do to help athletes get back to full play, and we're not allowed to do it because they're giving restrictions. But the athlete's able to go play soccer, but they never can squat again. That's their solution. I go, really? You're going to send this athlete out to do these movements on the field, but you're never going to let them do it in the gym again, or any kind of related movement.
So the model used here is what's called specialisation or separation of services. So that this is your niche, this is your niche, this is your niche, this is your niche, and you're not allowed to step out of your niche. So that's the model that's used in the Western world. I don't like that model, I don't use that model. If you can't have a person who has a holistic control of the process, then you're never going to have an optimal outcome. And I'm not advocating that will ever happen in the Western world, because the Western world believes in specialisation. So the aim of specialisation is to put people in boxes, control them, and then be able to selectively find out who you're going to blame, who you're going to throw under the bus. So the concept of generalisation versus specialisation, we've lost the battle in the Western world on that one. But the approach I take is more of a generalised approach where I'll ultimately teach coaches in my coach education program to progressively master the physical qualities and progressively master the athletic qualities, which are technical, tactical, psychological, and then physical, and then progressively be able to make decisions about the entire training process from who you see, like who we're going to use as our podiatrist, who we're going to use as our nutritionist. And I don't enjoy working in any environment other than that, because I want an optimal environment. And the environments where you're segregating the roles and putting firewalls between them is not optimal. And the more people in the circle, the more messed up it gets. And that's where, especially American sport, you know, how many people are in the circle of American sport? You look out in the field, and you know, you've got every skill has got a special coach and an assistant coach for that specific skill. You know, you've got a passing coach, a catching coach, a defensive coach, and an attacking coach. You know, how to get off the bench coach, how to tie shoelace coach, and they've each got assistants. So it's a big machine. Don't envy them.
That's inefficient.
Absolutely. And the teams that win, I'm pretty sure, have a pretty strong leader who calls the shots. I'm pretty sure teams winning aren't coaches that say, well, I didn't really pick them. I don't even say, just sit back and absorb the rubbish that they're delivering. And you know, the college system is so regimented that I'm not suggesting you're going to do that at the college level. But you could in the pro level. I mean, the pro coaches got so much to do with just with athlete egos and athlete managers, etc. But at the end of the day, the only reason they'd be abdicating those decisions would be because they're just too overloaded with dealing with those two things. Okay, any other questions from this morning?
I have a question. I mean, it's vaguely related to shape. Why is it that in your writings I've seen you emphasize pelvic position in the squat and deadlift, but not so much in the single leg movements, at least in the written form. I mean,
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Is there a reason?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So I don't emphasise it in all positions. For example, if you're doing standing up and doing an exercise, a bicep curl or something like that, I don't go overboard with it. I don't seek to trap you into shape all the time. I give you some freedom. So I focus on other things. So I might be focusing on your knee alignment, your level of your pelvis, your shape of your upper body, lower left and right. So there's a lot of things I'm focusing on, and that's lower down the food chain of concerns. But the big ones, the big ones that I'm focused on is where most of the damage gets done. So when the load increases, the melting pot impact increases. So you know when you put a pottery in a kiln, the greater the loading, the more the freezing of that shape, the setting into shape of the body. So when you get into squats and deadlifts where the loading potential is higher, that's where your greater risk is to changing your shape for the worse or the better.
And ideally for the single leg movements, the same rules would apply for...
Well, it could, but there are more important things to be thinking about, and the risk of dropping that variable down the food chain is not as high because the loading's not as high. Well, that's not the way I do it.
Right.
I've seen people take my single leg movements and apply incredible loads to it, and I don't do that. Like, I don't use much load because I've got such a high level of expectation in shape and technique that we just don't go there. The human body just doesn't need it. And this whole concept that, well, when you're running, you're on one leg. I mean, that's really good, but how long are you on that one leg for? Like, it's a pretty short period of time. And being there for a long, long period of time with incredible weight is not developing the optimal adaptation. It's not healthy for the body. You'll start to change the center of gravity. You'll start to change the load distribution through the joints in a way that doesn't serve you, even though it looks specific. So I've got real concerns with hyperloading in single joint movements if you want transfer.
Okay. I did notice though, like in Get Buff 4, you really started jacking up the volume for some of the single leg movements.
Yeah, well,
to astronaut, like reps that I couldn't even achieve for one set.
Yes. So I don't push you on the fatigue level until you're advanced and have a skill set to deal with it. So, I'm not doing a CrossFit program where, I don't care what it looks like. Reps are paramount. Let's just burn you up. Let's get as many reps in. So no, I'm conscious that when there's a technical component, the higher the technical component, the less I'll go towards fatigue. Mm-hmm. And it's also psychologically draining when you have to turn back up and doing 100 reps.
Yes.
Is there a DVD or video that you recommend to show a concept of transfer and how you plan it and what exercises you recommend or how you...
I don't have one. It's a topic that I haven't done that too, but we're creating an artefact today. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 days that we condensed down. It's all about transfer. I'll be discussing it more in future books. A lot of the concepts I've developed have been relatively new evolutions, and I typically deliberate on the concept for about 10 years before I'll write about it. So this has been in the works for a long, long time, but I don't have a DVD on every subject. But if you hang around me long enough, I know it sounds a little bit abstract, but if you hang around and go to enough seminars, enough camps that we go, we don't do many seminars, we do more camps where we go live. And, you do it live, you see it done live. Like you've been in the last 5 days. And I think that's far more valuable than sitting in an audience listening.
So do you do more of that transfer concept when you're actually working with an athlete, you're coaching an athlete? Yeah, you've got to see it and ask. You've got to see it and ask me, why is Ian doing that? Yeah. Why is Ian's top level coaches doing that? Because so much is being done that you will not understand unless you seek the answer to it. So once you've developed competencies and growing in your competencies, then you'll start, I'm seeing this. I didn't really realise it before. I don't know how to do it. Why are they doing what they're doing? And that's a few years away. Right. And John can talk more about that because he's lived what I'm talking about, where 5 of you can see the same thing, and you'll take something different from it. You can only go 10% above, generally speaking, where you are at the moment. That's all we're asking you to do. And if you try and jump above it, you're creating a failure because you missed a few steps anyway. So the challenge if I go too high level is you go either frustrated or you take the top shelf stuff and go away and do party tricks with people and get a short-term return and then fail in the long term. Because I've got stuff that can change the human being in about 30 seconds flat. But I don't want anyone to know about it because until they're ready for it, we want to optimise its impact. The stuff that I've developed in the last 40 years, and particularly every decade passes, it just takes it to a level. It's not in public domain, despite what people think. I think this is my first introduction to transfer, so I have a lot of stuff in my head. So I'm just, I'm trying to...
Yeah, so I mentioned it.
Yeah,
I mentioned...
It's a good introduction, but there's so many more questions that I have.
Oh, hey, we're only in 2 days we're scratching the surface.
Right, that's what I figured. I figured it's just
like
if
we go through 10 variables today, we're only a very short way through the process. The aim of education should be to stimulate your awareness of something, and then you should go out and implement it and find out what you don't understand. So the aim of education for me is to stimulate you to be aware that, hey, I don't know enough about this, but I'm going to go away and try it, and I'm going to fail at it, and I'm going to decide to just give it up and throw it out and just go back to the way I was doing it, or I'm going to continue to pursue the answer to something that I know is possible. I know it's possible now. I just don't know how to do it myself. Now, in the early days when I did a lot of seminars and large numbers of seminars, people would get excited, go home and try it. Their colleagues would tell them, that's rubbish, shouldn't bother with that. It didn't work for them because we weren't doing it with any mastery, and say, well, this is ridiculous, and they'd throw it out. And I didn't really change lives. So the way we do it now is we're changing lives, but we do it in a more methodical, slower, patient, more pre-qualified way. So I'm not interested in how much money I can make at a seminar. I want to know how high in competency I can take the person. Big difference, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because unless you become really competent, you're not going to change the world too much. You're not really going to change your life as a result of the fact you're not going to impact enough people in a certain way. Right. So what happens in our KSI coaching program is that you get to see
a coach like Tom get to see, he sat back a bit and watched, is that really the same John I knew 2 years ago? Oh my God, look at that. And then he said, geez, I better have more of that. So if you're in the program enough to see the changes that are occurring to people, you know it's possible. But anyone outside the program, they don't even know what's possible. They can't even see what's possible. So there's no detraction. I've got people who have flown here, people who've driven here for hours, but I've got people who live within a couple of hours, sorry, with a couple of minutes of here, who aren't here, because they can't see the possibilities. Unless you can see the possibilities, you're going to disregard it. So you see the possibilities in transfer, you understand the implications of it. You're going to deal with the fact that you don't have mastery of it, but at least you know more than you did before.
Right.
You're on your way.
Yeah, it's a good introduction.
Absolutely. And that's why you've just spent 5 days with me, come straight home, your family wanted to spend time with them, but you've spent another 2 days with me. Where you could have said, well, stuff it, I've just spent 5 days with him, why would I spend another 2?
Yeah.
That's why people around you are motivated to turn up. There's quite a few in the room who have done exactly the same thing. They've just spent 7 days with me. Now, after you've spent between 50 to 100 days with me in environments like this, you'll start to get a fair degree of confidence. So mastery is a 7 to 10 year process. Okay, we look like we're wrapped. Appreciate it.